Hi Year 5 and welcome back to Geography. This week we're back in lockdown. Today we will be comparing and contrasting two countries in the Middle East. When we compare countries, we look for ways in which these countries are similar, and when we contrast countries, we're looking for ways in which they are different. The comparison will include the region that they share, the religious beliefs that the people hold within the country, and also how they use exports to bring in revenue and money for the people. The contrast between these two countries will include the sort of exports that these countries rely on in order to make money, and also the climate and the physical geography of the two regions. In the video now you can see the Bekaa Valley region of Lebanon, which is green and fertile at the bottom of the valley, perfect for growing crops, which can then be sold to make a lot of money. And we can contrast this with the vast, arid, desert regions of Saudi Arabia, the hot temperatures there, and how this is far different from what takes place in Lebanon. So, as we go through the lesson, I'd like you to watch the video, make some notes about the differences and similarities, and then conduct some of your own research in order to fill out the class sheet, which is attached in Showbing. If you need any help, your teachers are here to help you, and we look forward to seeing what you've come up with. Okay everyone, so let's start contrasting lifestyles in two Middle Eastern countries. Today we need to understand key physical characteristics of two areas of the Middle East and understand key human characteristics of two areas of the Middle East. We're also going to look at key geographical differences between the same two areas. So we're looking at Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. Today you will find out about two contrasting countries in the Middle East, Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. But which country are the following facts about? Which country does this flag represent? Well, you will probably know from our book Oranges in No Man's Land that this is the flag of Lebanon. And here next to it, you can see the flag of Saudi Arabia. Which country is the following fact about? Wealth, GNP per capita. That means per year, per capita, they earn $8,843 US. Well, that is the GNP per capita of Lebanon. In Saudi Arabia, it's considerably higher. In Saudi Arabia, they earn $24,362 US per year on average. The population of Lebanon is 5.9 million, whereas the population of Saudi Arabia is 32.2 million. Saudi Arabia is a considerably larger country than Lebanon. In fact, it's the largest in the Middle East. Where are Lebanon and Saudi Arabia? Well, they are both located here in the Middle East. But if we take a closer look, you can see that Lebanon is a coastal region off the Mediterranean Sea, not far from Cyprus, whereas Saudi Arabia is this vast area in the middle of the Arabian Peninsula. Lebanon's relatively small, Saudi Arabia is relatively large. Lebanon has green agricultural areas, whereas Saudi Arabia doesn't have any. Key differences between the two areas. So, look at your handout, the contrasting lifestyles in the Middle East activity sheet, and we're going to move on to looking at them in more detail. What is life like for Isa Habchi? Isa Habchi is a hill farmer in the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. The Bekaa Valley separates the Lebanon mountains to the west and the anti-Lebanon mountains to the east. The valley forms the northern part of the Great Rift Valley, and the Bekaa Valley is about 16 kilometres wide and 120 kilometres long. It's 1,000 metres above sea level. The Great Rift Valley, formed millions of years ago along a diverging plate boundary, cuts through Africa, and it's so large that it can be seen from space. Well, what's the climate like? Well, the Lebanon mountains create a rain shadow in the Bekaa or the Bekaa Valley. What is a rain shadow? Well, this means that the Bekaa Valley is sheltered by the Lebanon mountains to the west from the heavy rain and snow that fall in these mountains. But because rain and snow fall on the mountains, eventually the water makes its way down into the valley itself, creating climates and soil which are really good for growing crops. Now, the Back Valley is part of the Mediterranean biome, the Mediterranean climate zone, and it's dry in the summer with temperatures reaching 35 degrees Celsius. Winter temperatures can be cold, and there are heavy showers and even snow between November and March. Well, what are the advantages of living in this area? Well, much of the Middle East is a desert. However, the unique temperatures and higher rainfall in the valley caused by the mountains mean that the land can be cultivated, meaning growing crops. Many people living here are farmers and they grow a range of crops. Cash crops, which are crops which they can sell to make money, include potatoes, cereals, tobacco, sugar beet, and grapes, also used in the production of wine. Farmers also grow other fruit and vegetables, including tomatoes, aubergine, oranges, almonds, and olives, although these are often consumed within Lebanon itself. Interesting facts: the Bekaa Valley accounts for 42% of the country's total cultivated land. Potatoes are the largest cash crop sold overseas. They bring in over $48 million into the country's economy every year. What about problems in this area? Well, during the hot, dry summers, the farmers in the Bekaa Valley rely on irrigation systems to keep their crops watered. We looked at irrigation systems last week. However, these irrigation channels are often quite old and inefficient, and they waste a lot of valuable water. Modern intensive farming techniques are also threatening the environment. They're using a lot of pesticides in the Bekaa Valley, for example, methyl bromide. Now, what is methyl bromide? Well, this is a chemical which is illegal in many countries because it can cause irreversible damage to human health if it's consumed and the ozone layer. Also, Lebanon has a reputation as being the 6th largest cannabis producer, which is an illegal drug. It makes $4 billion a year, but this sort of farming is illegal, and the people there risk long prison sentences if they are caught. But many don't have the option and get caught up in such illegal activities. Also, as many as 1.5 million Syrian refugees have arrived in Lebanon since the Syria crisis started about 10 years ago. Up to half of these refugees are now living and working in the Bekaa Valley. Let's move on to Omar Ali Ahmed. Omar Ali Ahmed is a worker at the Sheba oil field in Saudi Arabia. Let's look at the physical geography of Saudi Arabia. Well, it's one of the driest countries in the world, and there are vast areas of hot desert. There are no permanent streams, rivers, or lakes, and the Rub al Khali, which is known as the Empty Quarter, is the world's largest continuous sand desert and is found in the southeast of the country, which is where the Sheba oil field is located. Saudi Arabia is one of the richest countries in the Middle East. The country gets its name from King Abdul Aziz Al Saud, who became the King of Saudi Arabia in 1932. Today, the Al Saud family still rule the country, and their wealth comes from extensive exports of oil to the rest of the world. Remember, the oil is so useful for cars, for fuel, for energy creation at power plants that people need it. And because Saudi Arabia produces so much of it, this is where they make a majority of their money, since they can't sell crops or anything else due to the climate. Let's look at the climate. Well, Saudi Arabia has a harsh climate. It falls in the arid region. Temperatures are extreme. In the daytime, temperatures can reach over 50 degrees Celsius, but at night they can drop to as little as 10 degrees Celsius. The climate is extremely dry, and it receives less than 100 millimetres of rainfall a year. But there are advantages of working in Saudi Arabia. The Sheba oil field produces an estimated 1,000 barrels of oil a day, and Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil producer and produces 8 million barrels of oil a day. Oil accounts for 90% of the national income of the country. The country is now very wealthy because of this, and this allows everyone to live tax-free. Most people, over 80%, live in urban areas, and everyone has access to free healthcare and education, and the government are trying to encourage diversification away from oil. What is diversification? Well, driven by fears that the oil will one day run out, the Saudi Arabian government are trying to encourage new industries in the region, including construction and manufacturing. Also, due to climate concerns, a lot of the world's energy production is now moving away from fossil fuels like oil, and this means there may be less demand for oil in the future. As a result, Saudi Arabia are trying to develop with the times and find a way to make their economy work in the absence of oil. What problems are in Saudi Arabia? Well, water is very scarce. There's not much of it around. Water reserves in underground aquifers are drying up, and Saudi Arabia uses desalination to produce up to 50% of the country's drinking water. They've also built many dams in Saudi Arabia to try and capture and hold the small amount of rainfall that falls in the south of the country. There are 7 million overseas workers living in Saudi Arabia who are attracted by good wages and the promise of no tax. Young Saudi Arabians can find getting a job hard, with unemployment rates as high as 30% among Saudi Arabians. So many people with skills are coming from around the world and taking all of the high-paid jobs, meaning that many Saudis are struggling to find work to support themselves and their families. Desalination. Saudi Arabia uses more seawater than any other country. Turning seawater into drinking water requires desalination, which is extremely expensive. There are 27 desalination plants in Saudi Arabia. There are other problems in Saudi Arabia. The ruling Saudi Arabian royal family follows a version of Sharia or Islamic law that sometimes seems strict to other countries. This means that women do not have the same rights as other women around the world. For example, women were not allowed to drive until June 2018, when the law finally changed. However, many Saudi Arabians believe that women's rights have been misunderstood by the rest of the world, and they argue the fact that women do have power and influence in the country. In fact, women control 40% of the country's wealth.
It is the largest energy company in the world and actually the largest single producer of crude at over 10 million barrels a day. It's extraordinary. Saudi Aramco produces 1 out of 9 barrels consumed every single day around the world. What does that mean? It's bigger than ExxonMobil, Shell, BP. All the giants around the world can't stand on the same platform as Saudi Aramco. It has some of the largest proven oil reserves in the world. They counted at 261 billion barrels. We had a chance to go in to the empty quarter, the southern half of the country, in this vast desert landscape where they found nearly 20 billion barrels into one field. So everywhere they poke a straw in Saudi Arabia, they seem to find oil. They are the lowest cost producer of a barrel of oil in the world. Saudi Aramco has a very lofty goal to create a $2 trillion company. That's about 4 times the size of Apple Computer. The goal is here to sell up to 5% of the company, extract some of that money out of Saudi Aramco, spend it within Saudi Arabia to diversify outside the oil sector where they can.